welcome to our podcast. My name's Yasmin and I'm a director here at Synergy Recruitment.
Hi, I'm Marie. I'm also a director at Synergy.
Can't believe I'm finally able to say this, but welcome to 2021. Last year was a little bit of a strange one, to say the least. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about what changes happened in the recruitment industry and what changes Synergy had to make to adapt. And I guess moving on to what we expect to happen in 2021 really for recruitment. So what has COVID-19 meant for us and the recruitment industry, Marie?
Well, I remember last March vividly. So it was Friday the 20th of March, the last day that the children were at school for 5.5 months. And I think the week before we'd actually been joking a little bit, thinking, why are people panic buying toilet rolls?
We didn't take it seriously at first, did we?
No, not at all. And then you made the joke that, what happens if they close the schools? And I, like, the fear of God, I was like, no, that can't happen. Like, just cannot happen.
The sheer panic on her face when I made that joke. I genuinely didn't think it was actually ever going to happen, though, for real.
No, well, we didn't, did we? And then I think it was that Monday, they did the press conference, Boris did, and the next day we went into the office on the Tuesday and we had boards like full of jobs, placements due to happen, and the phone, it was like a domino effect, wasn't it?
Awful.
One after the other, clients contacting us, cancelling jobs, putting them on hold. It was
cancelling placements that people were due to start, decided not to start them anymore.
Yeah.
You know, which at the time was completely understandable, because I think anything like that, you have a situation of uncertainty and businesses are going to decide to put recruitment on hold and all that sort of thing, because you don't make big decisions when you're not sure of what's going to happen in the future, do you? So we did expect it that day after the press conference, but that was a dark day. A dark day, wasn't it?
It was, because I remember the credit crunch and the recession at that time back in 2008, and it was really difficult in the recruitment industry then, but it was not to the same degree as this, because it was it's never been before where we were on a complete national lockdown, and it was like doomsday, wasn't it? Like, what is going to happen? We don't know how long it's going to last. We've only been in business not even 2 years, about 1.5 years, wasn't it? Something like that.
And we pretty much packed up everything that day, didn't we? And we closed the office door, and I remember saying to each other, I don't know when we're going to open that door again.
No.
And it was really weird, wasn't it, to not have an idea of what was going to happen next.
Yeah, because you then put the announcement on social media, didn't you, that basically we're obviously working from home, not sure what's going to be happening, wishing everybody safe and well. But yeah, it was then from that 3 months, April, May, June, of absolute zero business, not a job. It was, but I think for me, although yes, that was scary, I had the biggest challenge of my life with homeschooling, which setting up a business is a doddle compared to teaching a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. I can tell you that.
I definitely did not envy you throughout that period of time.
No, I was a broken woman. But yeah, it was we just had to just stay hopeful, I suppose, like a lot of businesses, and just keep waiting for the further announcements.
Yeah.
And then I think when we got back, then it started off slowly, didn't it? Then people now, to begin with, we had like the odd vacancy coming through, which was great. And then when it relaxed even more, the regulations, we had a whole different scene to deal with them, because we had mass redundancies everywhere. The market was full of candidates. As we know, people were losing their jobs. People are on furlough. There aren't many jobs available. So when it did come to recruiting again after those 3 months,
completely different.
It had gone from being a candidate-driven market, hadn't it, where there was not enough candidates for the jobs that were available, to being a completely vacancy-led market. And we were getting hundreds and hundreds of responses for any job that we were advertising. And it made the process so much longer.
Yeah, it did. And I'll tell you what as well, because when we were going through that 3-month period of nothing, my fear at that point wasn't necessarily that there weren't going to be any jobs or any companies recruiting once we came out of the lockdown, because I think I was kind of aware of the fact that at some point things have got to bounce back.
Yeah.
My fear was that businesses that did then decide to recruit wouldn't choose to use agencies anymore, because I thought, because there are going to be a lot of candidates out there on the market, unfortunately, because of all the redundancies, that businesses would feel as though they didn't need to use us to go and find them candidates, because there would just be an abundance of them out there.
Yes.
And actually, to be honest, luckily, obviously for us, that's not really turned out to be the case, because as you were just saying, what we have found is, if anything, it became more difficult because there were so many more candidates. So the shortlisting process, I mean, we were coming in and opening up our inboxes with hundreds of applications in there. You know, the time that it takes to shortlist them down to the few candidates that have the right skill sets for the role, you know. And also, actually, above that, the fact that it was important, it always is, but it was almost more important at that point to make sure that we were not only finding candidates that could do the job, but candidates that genuinely wanted the job. And not just kind of for the short term, but genuinely it was something they would be interested in the long term, which is always our goal. So it was almost kind of using our skill sets and questioning even more to make sure that we were narrowing it down to people that were genuinely interested in the role that we were advertising or recruiting for, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's really hard, isn't it? Because you're dealing with lots of candidates that are in this awful situation where they've lost their job, and there's so much uncertainty out there. You know, and they might be more than capable of doing a particular job, but they may be, say, way overqualified, and we had to then be explaining to them the reasons why, and that, you know, unfortunately, it would, you know, you've got too much experience, for example, you know, and they are sort of on the phone desperate to just have a job, and they're saying to us, look, I'll do any job, I just want to get back to work again, which I totally get, because I'd be exactly the same. I would be happy to, you know, to do anything to be working, but like you said, for us and for our clients, it's about finding the right candidates that want this job for the long term, not just for the next 6 months whilst we're in this pandemic. So it was, you know, you're having to have those difficult conversations, and it's really hard, isn't it, as a human being, when you're dealing with human beings and you understand the impact that our decision is going to have on them. Yeah. But, you know, we've got to do the right thing from our clients. So that was just a whole complete change around, and something that we had to sort of adapt to and advise our clients as well, because I think there is that assumption that, well, there's lots of candidates in the marketplace, there aren't many jobs. So we found that clients were taking longer to make decisions. Yeah. But actually what was happening is the candidates that were in the mix for the jobs we were dealing with were also applying for other jobs, having other interviews, and because the clients was taking a bit longer than normal, they were accepting that offer that they got first of all, because they were so scared of the uncertainty, weren't they?
It kind of felt like whatever role came to them first, that's what they were going to jump into. So it had to be a situation of the clients moving quickly, to not lose out. But at that point, we didn't know that was the case, did we? So we then had to quickly adapt and learn from that going wrong a couple of times, unfortunately.
Yes, which we weren't used to, because normally this doesn't happen, where you normally, the candidates go along, they have the interview, the client makes a decision, and we know they want the job, so it's fine. And then we had a couple of candidates that were offered jobs, but it was too late, because they said, well, I'm sorry, but it took too long and I've accepted something else. And so we then had to, like you say, adapt, and then go and speak to our clients moving forward and explain this is actually the situation in the marketplace at the moment. You know, if you want to genuinely recruit someone as soon as possible, and the right person, obviously, then we've got to make sure we're being as efficient as possible throughout this process, so that you don't lose somebody.
Yeah. I think as well, I guess number one main way that things changed for us, the recruitment industry, recruitment in general, was how many people were then working from home, recruiting from home, onboarding people remotely. You know, all of a sudden you go from a situation where people working from home is a rarity and a luxury to pretty much the whole country is. you know, and how do you then, and I guess as well actually that was part of the reason why a lot of recruitment drives were put on hold, because in the beginning when that happened, companies weren't used to the idea of actually recruiting entirely remotely, you know, having interviews via video, never meeting somebody in person.
Yes.
But once we came out of that first lockdown and it was clear that maybe that would still need to be the case, I think businesses decided that they just had to adapt to that, because you've got to get moving on it, haven't you? So even if you've got to interview candidates via video, that's just what you've got to do. So
I think during the first lockdown as well, they had to focus all their attention on getting their own staff set up, working from home. You know, the amount of conversations where people are trying to get laptops so that the staff can work from home, and then any sort of IT related issues that they were having, so they had to like have that massive learning curve, didn't they?
Yes.
And then it's then going from interviewing face to face, 1 stage, 2 stage interviews, to no, it needs to then be done via video calls. Now for us, we were doing video calls anyway, weren't we, because we always meet with all of our candidates, so we used to give them an option of either coming to our office or we could do a video call. So we were sort of used to it, thankfully, as uncomfortable as it is still. But then our clients and candidates had to get used to it. And it's a whole different ball game, isn't it? When you're actually having a video interview rather than being face to face.
Yeah.
So it's prepping the candidates in a different way and making sure you're doing trial runs with them so that the phone's the right way, or, you know, making sure the backdrop's okay that they're going to be using. And
I think it's just more nerve-wracking, isn't it? Because it's completely different, and that's actually both for the clients and the candidates. You know, it's not just because the client's doing the interview that they feel completely comfortable with it, because they didn't. And in a lot of cases, I was saying to candidates who were going for interviews, you know, this is the first time that this person is interviewing via video as well, so they'd probably be a bit nervous too. So it was kind of this new situation for both parties to navigate. And that's what we were kind of helping, or trying to help people to kind of get comfortable with the idea of.
Absolutely. And then also you have the constant, you know, doors going, deliveries are being dropped off, and then you've got to get used to having, like, you know, dogs barking or children walking in. Can I have a biscuit? Because, you know, you're on a video call and you can't say no. So, you know, but I think it became, in a way, that helped it, because people have become more relaxed. You know, you've got to be understanding, because we're all in the same situation where we're trying to juggle our personal lives mixed in with our business life, and these things happen, don't they? So
definitely the year of adaptation, 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.